Ladies and gentlemen, good evening to each of you. We welcome you here tonight. I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you will stand, the Vice Mayor will have our invocation and lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, we come to you tonight seeking your wisdom. We ask that you would be with this council in this deliberations. We ask that you bless this city and its citizens. Heavenly Father, we thank you for all the blessings that you bestow on each one of us, this country and this state. We ask that you be with those serving in foreign lands and bring them home safely to their loved ones. And Father, please be with those now who are in the position of running our state and our federal government. If you would lend them the wisdom that they need, Father, to take these issues and resolve them in the best manner possible for the citizens they represent. I ask this in the name of Jesus Christ and for others, those like him. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks. Thank you very much. First item on our agenda, as always, is our audience for visitors. If there's anyone in our audience who would like to address council on any issue, we would like to hear from you now. Don?
I'm Don Baker at 9 Evans Circle. Glad to be here with you guys, Mayor, managers, and council members. I have a concern I'd like to share with you. I have a document here I would like to hand out, but I would request it to be back to me. Is that okay, Wayne? I just want you to see what I'm going to discuss with you. It won't take but 1 minute of your time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, sir.
I'll cheat off the mayor's paper. Is that enough?
Thank you.
I would like to have these back, please.
Did you get that? Treat?
My concern is about the taxes of my home, and this is compared to 46, an estimated 46 other homes within the area I live. White House Cove, and there's a couple other homes over there that's not actually called, but they're all combined on White House Drive and Evans Circle. It won't take but a minute of your time, but this is what concerns me. If you look at page 1, the first two items on there is my home. If you notice, I have revised line item 2, and the reason for that, I went to the Equalization Board and asked for an adjustment. They did adjust it by what you see there, on the property only. Jumping forward real quick, and just so we can walk through this real easy, if you go to page 3, you'll see the range. And keep in mind, this is all pretty much like-for-like property. It's all waterfront property. Some homes are nicer than others. My home is a 3-bedroom rancher built in 1977. But if you look at the bottom line item, you see the range for the property is $2,717 per 1/100 to $9,300. Out of 46 homes, that really is, they're all compatible as far as the property. Some are larger than others, and that's identified. If you go over to the last column, the 209 assessment, you'll see the square footage per home ranges from 58 to 150 per square foot. And that's $58, should be $160. Now, I can see the square footage of a home been different more so than I can the property. But if you look at my home, go back to page 1, keep in mind I have a 1,968-foot square home. And I think I'm number 2 in my subdivision. My property is rated at 145 per square foot. Now, if anyone knows where White House Cove is, if you're familiar with it, that is a big discrepancy from the bottom being 58. I asked you to just look at this just a minute and just get an idea for what I'm saying to you. I was really, really surprised when I did this little study to find the discrepancy high and low. And all of them been 42 within White House Drive and Evans Circle. It's a big, big discrepancy. I don't know why. Something's wrong. I did go to the equalization board and they lowered it to, as you can see, just the property only. So anyway, I've gone as far as I can with this, as far as within the city. But I am concerned about it. Something's not right. So your consideration to looking into this would be appreciated. Thank you very
Okay, Don,
much.
thank you. And you want these back?
Yes, sir. Any questions? Any comments on them? Did you get a chance to really look through the?
Can we keep one copy? You
I
rather?
got a disclaimer on it. If it won't be used against me at any time. I got a disclaimer. That's the main thing.
It's whatever you're comfortable with, sir. I guess it'd be helpful, at least in my mind, if we could keep a copy so that the city manager, who I'm sure that we're going to ask to look into it, can have a discussion with the assessor and see, to reach some type of.
We're going to need some answers
That's
back,
good.
Don, and the only way, this helps us an awful lot if we can just keep one copy.
That'd be good.
To represent your side,
Okay, he's got the one. If
Here's
you
the
want to
other.
collect
Okay.
the other ones, that's fine.
And the only other thing that I would remind you, sir, is that and
I'm sorry.
I'm glad that you did go to the Board of Equalization, and I'm glad that your case was decided in a positive way, at least somewhat.
Yes, it was.
Okay, I would remind you that state law doesn't. The assessor is not allowed to take his assessment down based on the Board of Equalization. In other words, it's a never-ending cycle. It's not a law that I agree with, but it is a law of the state of Virginia that it goes right back up to what the assessor did at the next assessment. And I just wanted you to know that in front of it occurring.
And that's fine. The only reason I'm here tonight is the valuation.
I understand.
I just didn't understand it. I wanted to share it with you.
No, we appreciate it, Don.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on then to the approval of minutes. We have two sessions, and if we could take those separately, please.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion we approve the regular session dated October 13th, 2009.
Okay.
Second.
Made second, we adopt our regular session minutes from October 13th, 2009. Any concerns, comments, questions regarding those minutes? If not, Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilman Hunt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Holloway.
Aye.
Mayor Helson.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Judy. And the work session, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt the minutes of the work session of October 13th.
Okay. Second. All right, motion made second that we adopt the work session minutes as well. Any concerns, comments regarding those? Any questions? If not, Judy, please.
Councilman Hunt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Holloway.
Aye.
And Mayor Helson.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Judy. Let's move on to item E, is the public hearing, and the only public hearing tonight dealing with ordinances increasing land use application fees. Randy?
Mr. Mayor, this is the follow-on action from the series of work sessions that this council had with relation to raising the land use fees for both building and land use activities. Building does not have the same public hearing requirements, so you have already made that approval. This, because it's part of the land use ordinances, goes a slightly longer route, but this is what you've seen before and that you've authorized to be initiated. Debbie is here. She can answer questions. We actually have a PowerPoint presentation we can make if you'd like to see it again, but this is essentially the action that you initiated
Right.
in the closing days of the summer.
Okay? Everybody on board with that? Any questions, comments before we open the public hearing? No interest in seeing the PowerPoint? We've seen it once. Okay. All right, let's open the public hearing then and ask if there's anyone in our audience that would like to address the item on the public hearing dealing with ordinances that increase land use application fees. Okay, I don't see anybody, so we'll close the public hearing. If there's a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt the ordinance amending the subdivision ordinance of the city of Poquoson as it pertains to fees.
Second. Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. We adopt the ordinances. Any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilman Marie?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Holloway?
Aye.
Councilman Hunt?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
And Mayor Helson?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thanks, Judy. Let's move on to item F, which is new business for,
Mayor?
I'm sorry?
Separate
are-
ordinances. It's
yeah,
5
this-
separate ordinances.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. You need to
No,
vote on one of
no,
them.
it's not a problem.
Can they do it as one single consolidated motion, Wayne?
The motion wasn't made that way.
But could they? Okay.
Did you
Mr. Mayor.
just,
I will make a
Ordinance
motion
is.
that we adopt the remainder of the ordinances
okay. The other four.
fallen under here as it pertains to our code for the application of fees.
Okay. Second. Okay, so we have another motion made that covers the other four ordinances that are within the 5 dealing with the application fees. Judy, please.
Councilwoman
Thank you, Wayne.
Crawford?
Aye.
Councilman Hunt?
Aye.
Councilman Holloway?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Marie?
Aye.
And Mayor Helson?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, ma'am. Now let's move on to the first quarter financial review. Randy?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that we have begun to formalize since my arrival is both a monthly and quarterly financial review. Teresa is here. She's going to speak to it in a second. I just want to tell you that what we're trying to do here is to just have the best possible information for you each month as we go through. We're reforecasting our end-of-the-year fund balance so you can see how things are happening. And in the quarterly reviews, what we'll try to do is speed bump for you any significant issues on the expenditure or revenue side that we want to bring to your attention. I'll steal half a bit of your thunder to say nothing calamitous so far. But when Teresa's finished, I do think it'd be appropriate to talk a little bit about 2011 because calamity is on the horizon.
But right now things are okay. The first quarter general fund expenditures and revenue show an anticipated decrease in the fund balance of approximately $5,000. We've taken a conservative approach and assumed that 99% of the budgeted expenditures will be expended by year end. Even with this decrease, we still maintain our fund balance at 15%, which is what we want to do. As you're aware, the state has reduced funding to us in a number of areas. Those areas include our constitutional officers, the police department, the fire department, and funding for the library. The total estimated reductions from the state amounts to approximately $45,000. This is in addition to the $45,000 that's in the budget already that was part of the $100 million revenue reduction over a 2-year period. Our local revenue, though, is encouraging. Real estate taxes from public service corporations are estimated to be approximately $30,000 more than we budgeted for. This increase in public service corporations tax can be used to offset some of the reductions that we just received from the state. The December 5th real estate and personal property tax bills have been prepared and mailed. The real estate taxes due at December 31st is approximately 51% of what we budgeted, with personal property tax being 44% of what we budgeted. Additional supplemental billings have gone out, which is an additional 5% of our personal property. We as a city, collect approximately 99% of our current real estate, and just under that in personal property. So we feel that our budgeted amounts for personal property and real estate this year will probably be met. Probably won't have any extra, but they'll probably be met. The other items that are going on is our local property tax, our other local taxes. We've collected about 16% of what we budgeted, which was exactly the same amount that we budgeted last year. So, which is what we would expect right now at September 30th. On the other side of the expenditures, we've taken a conservative approach, like I said, and assumed that we're going to expend everything that we've budgeted. We didn't budget anything we didn't think we were going to expend. Departments that can absorb the reductions made by the state are going to do that. Where those cannot absorb it, we're going to have to do some reallocation in the budgets to other departments. And at this point, like Randy said, we don't see any major expenditures or outline any major unexpected expenditures for year end. So that's really all that I have to say. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Teresa, I just had one question, and that is, how low did our fund balance get in October? How low is it now? Because I know it got down to about zero, almost zero last year.
Cash?
Cash.
Cash. Mike is here. You know about how low our cash got? I think it was.
I think we passed our low point.
But how low was it? Was it?
I would say within a couple $100,000.
A couple $100,000?
Much better than last year.
Good.
Yes.
I guess, let me see if I heard the gist of what you said, and correct me if I heard it wrong. Basically, the contributions that we receive from the state are the only negative, or the major negative that we've gotten this year.
So far.
That's at $45,000. And our revenues are up probably 1% greater than you projected, which is pretty close. Right.
Yeah,
and with the $45,000 state shortfall on the city side of the budget, we're basically on track.
Yes.
Okay. How about on the contribution? I know that you are not here representing the schools, okay? But do we have any information on, okay, if the state cut the city side of the budget by $45,000, do we know what the school side may have lost?
I do not.
Okay. So I guess I would just ask that, you know, when we do these, that maybe we get, because they could hurt us worse than probably our own side as far as financial management of the city. So, and I appreciate this, and it's all a learning curve to us. So I just want to make sure if we lost 45,000, chances are they lost more. And I want to understand, you know, what we may be looking at to make up, or with end of year monies or whatever. So that's the only comment I've got.
I think that's a very good idea, because in what Randy passed out to us, the Virginia State Budget, a train wreck about to happen article, it says in there that the revenues for the state are down 9.2% this year from last year. And so since the state's bringing in 9.2% less money this year than last year, and they can't print up money, they're going to have to take it out from something, whether it be schools or the city side. So it does make a lot of sense to do the consolidated budget discussion.
And not that I want the schools to come and present.
No,
that's not what I'm asking for. But if you could just have the communication and then bring to us, you know, the highlights.
Sure.
But this is really good, and I appreciate this, Randy, that you bring for us.
I can't quantify where the schools are, and that may just because I'm having a semi-senior moment, but I know that the superintendent and her staff are working diligently to minimize and isolate the impacts in the year. They began the year thinking they needed to do that, and they're already doing it. So
well, they had some risk numbers when they brought them to us, and I just want to understand how we're measuring out against that. Is it worse, better? You know, because we did make up some of the shortfall already. So,
what's the calamity issue?
Well, I think the calamity issue, and maybe that's too strong a word, but maybe not. I think actually Councilman Reeves' train wreck analogy might be better.
What's the train wreck?
It's really FY11. And what I've My sense is that our local revenues are stabilized. It doesn't mean that we couldn't have another dip in the recession, but things are holding. The revenue estimates were good. The things that the council did to bring the budget into balance are holding, which is exactly what you would hope and expect when you have to make a hard decision. But that the state continues to have problems, and their problems are more significant statistically than ours. And already we know that the state is considering making changes, for example, in the Virginia State retirement contribution rate. Our impact, if those recommended changes go forward for next year alone, excluding the schools, is $220,000. That level of change can eat up any sort of natural revenue growth we might see in a recessionary time in one gulp and more. And that is not really an effort to address the reductions in state funding. That's really the actuarial demands of the VRS plan. So we, along with every other local government and school division, are very vulnerable to the fact that the state's revenues have not stabilized as quickly as ours have. And to jump a half a step further, the governor, the outgoing governor, and then the incoming governor will be making decisions on information actuals that look very much like what we have now. We may have, and let's hope that we do, a very, very robust recovery in 2011. But in the absence of information, which actually statistically suggests that that's already begun to happen, they're going to be hard-pressed to adopt a budget without unwarranted optimism in it. And so really, the state will approve its budget if they stay on course somewhere in the next 5 to 6 months. And if we don't begin to see at the state level some significant turnaround, then I think our hardest year is probably in front of us, not behind us.
So the VRS, that's the multipliers that they're talking about?
That's correct.
Well, there's a lot I could say about that, but it is, and I'm not sure really what I want to say about that, but I know that that's been going on. I know it's been discussed, and I'm sure most folks that have VRS don't even know that. And that's pretty much a sad day when we go after folks' retirement. That's a sad day.
Does, and you're estimating that, Randy, right now in the ballpark of
$220,000 is the difference between the quote recommended VRS rates for the next fiscal year and what we're paying currently right now. So the double compounding impact of that is, for that additional increment of money, neither we nor the citizens nor our employees receive any additional benefit or change. It's cost to do the same thing.
So basically, you're basically informing us that, you know, as the next budget approaches, we've got a $220,000 shortfall that
already
you're highly potentially looking at. Right?
Unless, and it has happened in the past where the General Assembly has worked with VRS to modify that, but that's the recommendation, and that's just the city side. The schools are working through what that means to them right now.
Okay. All right, any other questions of Teresa or Randy? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Well done. Okay, let's move on to item 2, which is sewer pump station number 2. Randy?
This, Mr. Mayor, is a continuation of a discussion that we had at your last meeting with regard to what to do with the pump station 2, which is at capacity and requiring pump arounds and temporary mechanical fixes even during moderate rainstorms. At the last council meeting, we presented 3 options. Members of council had 3 questions and decided that it would be appropriate to table the action until we could answer those questions. I have got the answers in the staff report is all 3. 2 of them came from the administrative staff and 1 from the city attorney. I'll let him answer that one if that's all right, but I'll take the other 2 and then defer to Wayne. First question was, what was our balance, our unrestricted cash balance in our utilities fund? And you'll see that about 60% of the way down page 2. Our unrestricted year-end balance in the utilities fund was $909,000.
On page 2, I'm sorry, down page 2
of the manager's memo.
Yeah.
So we have, should you choose to use it, sufficient money within the fund to cash fund the improvement. Having said that, we consulted our financial advisors to ask them their thoughts on how much operating revenues reserves we should have. Their suggestion was 1 to 2 years worth of operating revenues. In Spotsylvania, where I came from, it was 2. That's what we used. We had a much larger system. Anyway, I point that out that the money is there. Should the council wish to use it for that purpose, you see the rationale here for the suggestion to keep a year's worth of operating revenues. We do so with some exposure, but I did want to answer that question. Additionally, council talked about whether or not it might be desirous if, in fact, we did not extend the moratorium to the single lot connection to have a sort of rider fee that could be used. There may be different ways to get to this, but the one that I chose was to take all of our expenses relating to the pump arounds for last year and divide it by the number of users. That came out to $4.78 per user in the Pump Station 2 area in fiscal year 09. Further go on to say, if you set a timeline for completion that is relatively short, just the billing process itself to collect a $5 fee is probably not cost effective, but to the extent that you may push that out into the future, you might want to use that as a basis for calculating the fee, depending on the construction schedule. And then Mr. Moore has followed up on the questions pertaining to the city's legal liabilities as it pertains to the consent order.
I gave you a summary on the second page, but basically I talked with Dave Evans relative to a moratorium and how it should be handled and whether it should be a uniform moratorium or whether we could do selective, like single lots being allowed to hook up. Basically, Dave said, you know, as long as whatever you do doesn't create a discharge, then you'll be okay. As long as the pump around works, or as long as there's no spill, no discharge, then EPA could care less whether you use a pump around system or not. They could care less whether or not you allowed independent hookup of one lot here and there. But if there is a discharge, then it was his opinion that the fact that you allowed additional hookups contributed to the discharge, and so they are not going to look at that favorably if the discharge event occurs.
And that would be regardless because we were already over the capacity. Is that correct?
At least if as a he felt like that it would enhance EPA's looking to you for retribution because of the discharge, because you allow people to continue to hook up and you knew there was a problem brewing.
Okay.
Do we know how many houses have been started and that, you know, somebody thinks they're going to get to move in the next month, 6 weeks or something? Do we have a clue as to that?
My sense is there are probably none in that category. That up until and including to this day, we have continued to allow single lot connections, even after the establishment of the temporary moratorium on the larger subdivision connections. So, Debbie or Bob, if you're listening, any sense of people who are 2 or 3 weeks away that we are not allowing to connect at present?
Existing lots were being allowed, to the best of my knowledge.
Right. Shouldn't be.
Are there any in the pipeline? Are there any existing lots in the pipeline that you know of that are going to want to connect?
Soon.
One.
Ms. Vest says 1.
This one other question I have, Randy, about the, it's very interesting to get the council packet, and excuse me, Mayor, for asking us to maybe out of turn or whatever here, but it gave us the map of the sewer system, and all these other systems that are labeled 2A, 2D, 2H, 2F, 2A. Are they all also dependent on Station 2?
I'll need to defer to Mr. Speechley again. I apologize, but
Let him come up here, please, Randy.
That is correct.
So all of these, so when we say that Station 2 is under capacity and has a problem. All these other stations, I'm assuming, are feeding to Station 2.
That is correct.
And then Station 2 is taking it and,
HRSD.
out of the city to HRSD. So in theory, it's not just the area that is shaded in at 2, it is basically the whole western end of the city.
That is correct.
All right.
Did you factor those areas into your numbers, Randy, when you were talking about the $5?
So, yes.
Okay.
Question was how many connections fed directly to Pump Station 2, or fed to it?
Right. And one thing that Randy had asked about, and I appreciate you providing, is showing the number of development plans that are out there right now. We have about 135 lots that are looking to be developed in 4 different subdivisions that have been already submitted to the city. I guess they haven't broken ground on them in any of the cases yet.
That's correct.
But I mean, there's a lot in the pipeline. Probably when the economy gets better, we'll see these come to fruition.
One last question on this map. Station 2, does that also incorporate the apartment
Yes, sir.
complex?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that would also, so one of those things is the new townhome development that would go in once the economy changes, that's already zoned up here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No, that's not.
That wouldn't go to Pump Station 2?
Village Park is not going to Pump Station 2. If I remember conversations with Bob and previous reviews, it's going to actually exit on the west side of With Creek Road, so it will bypass Pump Station 2.
Would it go to Pump Station 4?
I'm not familiar with the subdivision.
Village Park.
Village Park, the one
up on With Creek
It's right
Road.
across from the floors.
Between the
Across
apartments?
from the floor.
Between the
It's got a
apartments?
trailer
and,
sitting on it.
That would go to 2?
That will
I
go.
would think it would.
Yeah.
That's the breaking.
And I'm only going by the map here.
And that's the breaking line, basically.
Okay.
Between 2 and 4.
That's correct. The manholes are literally 70 feet apart. One goes one way, one goes the other way.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I had brought up last meeting the idea of using the utility fund, because I remember we had like $3.5 million in the fund. Unfortunately, most of that is not cash. A lot of it is just the value of equipment, which isn't liquid. So even though it's an accounting thing, it says $3.5 million. $2.5 million of it is equipment, and other stuff is being depreciated. So I would kind of withdraw that idea. I don't think.
How much? What is the cash? What is the liquid value again, Randy?
909,000.
900. Okay.
Yeah, and $2.5 million is equipment. So I thought we had $3.5 million, so we could afford $500,000 million out of it, but now I don't.
But out of that 900 they're talking about, you should have in reserve 2 years of operating.
They suggested 1 to 2. 1 is 1.2 million.
Okay.
The 1 year is 1.2 million.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're well under that, yeah.
And we hold that in case something fails. So.
In case we have just critical problems.
If we tonight, I guess the only thing that's before us right now is to kind of stop the bleeding on a patient that's dying. So basically, in tonight's packet, nothing on how we're going to fund this, is it?
Well, yeah, there's 4 alternatives.
So
It's a section.
that's
4 different resolutions.
The differences are here.
The differences in section 2.
I saw 3. I don't know what the fourth one is.
Well, the fourth one is the one that we added, which is the use of the unrestricted fund balance in the utility fund.
Which
So-
Mr. Murray just withdrew.
No, that I withdrew using a utility fund because the utility fund has $1 million cash, but we think we need about $1.2 million a year. And I thought
The utilities fund has $900,000, and the unappropriated fund has some form of money in there. And the other one would be that we fund it, capital improvements plan contains $500,000, and therefore we tell you to go off and finance it. Is that correct? And then it goes across the city.
Your financing choices are really, you can use your unrestricted fund balance. You can instruct me to go meet with these persons who have the developments and any other developments that may come on the radar screen to see if we could not structure an agreement whereby they would pay their connection fees of $6,000 earlier than they otherwise would as an alternative means to either cash fund or short-term finance the project. Third issue is to go ahead and issue regular debt, which would require a repayment stream. And then the last is simply to do nothing from a financing standpoint, allow the budget to catch up to it when we are in a stronger financial position. But if you do that, make a decision whether or not you would like to extend the moratorium to include all connections or leave it as it is now with the individual connections continuing to proceed but all others halted until the improvements are completed.
I have a question about the 6,000. Would that cover everything? Or that's just would that cover fixing things?
The availability fees are there primarily to pay for the incremental cost of things coming online. So it's one of those things that if we had the $600,000, we could make this improvement, but the way that it's typically done is they don't pay it until they're ready to hook on. Well, they can't hook on until the improvement's done. So I'm really, in this option, talking about reversing that relationship, but doing it in such a way that...
but you would need 100 hookups in order to get the money we needed.
Essentially.
Which is well within the
137 that have been development plan reviewed, but just because the development plan's been reviewed doesn't mean they're going to go forward anytime
And I
soon.
think it would, the other thing it would accomplish was, you know, it would mitigate our risk. And what Wayne said, you know, if we move forward with going ahead and making these fixes and can have the system online ready when that development takes place, that's a win-win situation for us. And I think, you know, it would be some incentive for those developers maybe at this point to look at go ahead and retiring that part of their construction cost and having that availability ready when they get ready to start. So you know, I would like to see Randy go forward and see if he can negotiate something with those developers towards paying their fees up front.
I'm right with you, Banks. And I'm willing to move forward and make that a motion, but I'm concerned only by part of what Wayne said, and that was that, you know we have a problem. So yes, I think step one is Randy goes out and he tries to negotiate the best possible deal. But I think that we need to move forward even if he is unsuccessful. In other words,
or partially
that we
successful.
would, you know, or that he's partially successful.
Right.
Yeah.
And that somehow we craft this resolution so that step one is go do that. Step two is, if that's unsuccessful, move forward with financing and get a pump station in there. What I don't want to do is ignore this, given the widespread ramification to the city if something did happen to pump station 2 in the interim.
So you're talking about a combination between option 1 and option 2?
Try to get our money back as quick as we possibly can. Yeah.
And even if we had to go in and seek some temporary financing, the potential revenue from hookups will retire that debt.
I would think we would
should come
move
close.
forward to design, to get the design going, while in parallel we're doing the negotiations.
Well, we pretty much have the design because we've done this on other stations. Or will it be a brand new one? Or?
Do we have the design?
Design is in hand, yes, sir.
Design is in hand. Very good. Okay.
Would you tell us about the fine last time, Bob? Did you quote a figure about the fine if we would have a discharge?
Jeff would have.
Jeff did. Somebody gave us a number. I don't know.
Well, not only,
Pretty severe.
not only that, but just the fact that we got this basically wore out inoperative thing sitting out here and nobody took on to. There's enough reason for me to want to move forward.
I believe it's still operative. It's just when it gets over a peak flow that we have a problem. It works day to day. It's
That's
just
correct.
when we get the flooding and you get the large infiltration, it can't handle it, and that's the time. So when we're going to get our nor'easters coming up, we're going to have problems.
But you and I both know that that's bordering right on being fatal.
But in the,
I know.
And in the meantime, we've got everybody tied up as far as anything.
We need to fix it.
I mean,
So I
this is the pump station you can smell when you go up With Creek, right? That's the one.
So basically,
It's that close now.
You want to make some changes to one of the resolutions?
I'd like to
Shane?
try and make some changes here. Wayne,
Take alternate number 2. I'm not trying to do, take alternate number 2. And at the bottom, you see section 1 is valid, section 2 is valid.
right?
Then I would add a section 3 and take that from alternate number 1. Say in the event the city manager is unsuccessful, then he would be directed to initiate public debt for the improvement.
Okay,
And
so-
then read number 3 to 4.
Right. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we take the alternative 2 resolution, add section 3 to, in the event that the negotiation is unsuccessful, that we add in the words from alternative number 1, and that would be section 3, and section 4 would be then the resolution shall be in effect on and after its adoption.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Have a motion made and second. I will try to echo what Gene said. So we have a motion made and second that we proceed along that route. Are there any questions, any concerns? Okay. Judy?
Councilman Hunt?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilman Marie?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Holloway?
Aye.
And Mayor Helsing.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Judy, thank you. Move on to item 3, which is an ordinance making additional appropriations and transfers for fiscal year 2010. Randy?
Mr. Mayor, the resolution and staff report are fairly self-explanatory. Teresa's here to answer any questions you may have, but given the relatively routine nature of this, we would rather respond to your questions than make a presentation.
Okay. Are there any questions? Someone in favor of the motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we adopt the ordinance making additional appropriations and transfers for fiscal year 2009-2010.
Okay.
Second.
All right. We have a motion made and second that we adopt the ordinance. Any questions, concerns, comments regarding? If not, Judy, please.
Councilman Marie?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Holloway?
Aye.
Councilman Hunt?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
And Mayor Helsing.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Yes, thank you, Judy. Let's move on to item 4, which is a resolution making appointments to the Wetlands Board and the Library Advisory Board. Anyone prepared with some names to enter in the resolution?
Right now, we have a name for the Wetlands Board, but we do not have a name for the Library Advisory Board.
Okay.
Unless someone,
Okay.
Is anybody else?
We did have
There's
one.
only one applicant.
Well, yeah, but she's on another committee.
I've talked to her, and she is not available.
We can
I understand.
we can make that.
So what I would,
We can make that at the next meeting.
the Library Advisory Board.
Sure.
And, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for a resolution making appointment to the Wetlands Board for Mr. Phil Prisco for the term to expire October 31st, 2014.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made and second that we adopt the resolution with that name inserted. Any other comments, concerns? If not, Judy, please.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilman Hunt?
Aye.
Councilman Holloway?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Marie?
Aye.
Mayor Helsing.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, thank you, Judy. And if we could do the postponement on the next resolution, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move we postpone a resolution canceling the second meetings of the months of November and December 2009 to a future meeting.
Okay. All right, Judy, please. Is there a second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay.
Councilman Holloway?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Marie?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford?
Aye.
Councilman Hunt?
Aye.
And Mayor Helsing.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And item 6, a resolution adopting fiscal policy guidelines. Randy?
Mr. Mayor, this is a follow-on from your last meeting as well. What you have here are the financial policy guidelines as recommended by our financial advisors, who worked with us in preparation for the last work session. What you have here is an original version, and it's the third page in your package. Across the top it says as presented by the financial advisors, and that is exactly the way you heard it last time. And 2 pages behind that is something we've entitled Modified Fiscal Stability Reserve Fund Policy, which that resolution, those series of policies are actually the staff's recommendation. The principle, the only difference there is in the former, the policy would set a 2-year fiscal year period beginning next fiscal year for the creation and full funding of the Fiscal Stability Reserve. In the modified policy, we have added an aspirational language without bracketing it by specific timeline in recognition of the times that we're in. Almost on the heels of our last work session is when we began to get yet the next wave of bad news from the state. So it was that, a foreknowledge of the hard road ahead, which caused us to suggest the modification. Having gone and done more than a half a dozen of these rating trips in New York, one of the first tests that you have to pass is, do you follow your own policies? And in this case, because of the extreme unlikelihood that we would achieve that within 2 fiscal years, and the foreknowledge of that, is why we suggested the aspirational rather than specific timeline in the language.
I'm probably as conservative or more so than most anybody up here. In fact, maybe even stingy. But I don't think we should tie ourselves so tight that we're unable to do stuff like Pump Station 2 that we just discussed. I think these are wonderful ideas and should be goals, and we should strive toward them and attempt to do that and do it every time we can. But I don't think we ought to tie ourselves so hard that we're unable to operate, or could be unable to operate. And that's just kind of my thought on that.
Okay. Other comments?
I agree with what you're saying, that we shouldn't tie ourselves too tight, and that's why I think the modified fiscal stability fund policy, the second one, makes a lot of sense, since it is, as the city manager says, aspirational. But the one thing that was really eye-opening to me when we did get our financial brief last meeting was, even though we have a reserve fund requirement of 15%, that is 15% at the end of the fiscal year. And at various times during the fiscal year, our checkbook, which is basically what that reserve fund is, goes down just to a couple $100,000. It goes down to a couple of percent. It touched zero about a year ago. So we really, we have to, I think we need to have this 15%. And furthermore, I think it is already on about the 4th page of our financial plan that we approved for the 15%. So I don't see that being a change, really. But I agree with you on we shouldn't tie ourselves down and just use the aspirational language.
I think on this one, and I'm going to kind of draft this in the form of a motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
I want to make a motion that we adopt a resolution adopting the financial policy guidelines with the modification to the financial policy guidelines of where it designates fund balance policies. Mm-hmm. I want to change 15% to 12 to 15%. And I want to add state budget shortfalls to the list of things that undesignated fund balances should be drawn upon.
Say the last part again, please.
State budget shortfalls should be one of the things that we can pull unappropriated fund balance to cover. I think, well, I'll leave it at that and see if I can get a second and have the discussion.
My second.
I was going to say, I would if I could.
Okay. The reason that I've done this is the following. This is it's a truly challenging financial time for cities and states. And for anybody that's listening at home, the work session tonight included a discussion of the state budget. And one item that we heard here tonight said the state is not making their commitments to the cities and localities. At the same time, we have bond counsel saying, build your unappropriated fund balance. And in good economic times, 15% is challenging because it's still the people's money in the beginning, middle, and end of the year. It's still the people's money. And what I don't want to do is get the difference between 15% of our budget and 12% of our budget is about $450,000.
Which would do a pump station.
Which would do a major expenditure just very similar to what we could see. We just had a report from the financial director here that basically said, hey, this, and actually followed up by Randy's discussion that the VRS could be a shortfall that we may need to make up for our own employees. Okay? So all I want to do is not that I want to toss out the direction of the bond counsel. Is very solid financial advice. And in any other given time, I would follow that distinctly. Right now, I think that this council, and I think most cities within the state of Virginia, is not prudent to tie your hands to the point where you can't make financial decisions without changing policy first. So that's why I've made it, and I think a future council, or if this council sees a different financial picture at a later date, we can modify that. But right now, let's leave ourselves some flexibility to deal with the financial situations that we've been dealt. That's all I've got to say.
And I have a question for Randy on that. I noticed you had some highlights on language that you would suggest that we modify for that. Your motion did not include to make those modifications of the language, right?
Yes.
It did?
The 12 to 15%.
Yeah, my understanding
everywhere it says 15% in there, it should say a range of 12 to 15%.
And you removed the time frame as Randy suggested, right?
I understood it to be a modification of what the staff was suggesting.
The modifications he made are inclusive of what you...
Yeah. I have just one question, I guess, well, to start with, and that is if we had a 12% policy, and 12% is what we had at the end of June, at the end of our fiscal year, would we have run out of cash in October?
It's possible.
It's possible. No, it's probable.
It's probable because our fund balance was less than $450,000, and so if we go down to 12%, from looking at the graph, and I still don't have it in front of me, it's likely that we would run out of cash twice a year, in October and I think it was April. And so we'd have to go do short-term borrowing or do something else twice a year, and I don't really want to get in that situation.
Well, and I understand, Tom, and believe me, as sitting on this council, I know Banks and I we've gotten to places where we've had to use short-term financing, but at the end of the day, it is still the people's money that we're basically saying, hey, we're going to keep 15% of your money at the end of the year. Now, cash flow can be managed. Okay, and it is difficult, and I know that our city staff does do a tremendous job at it. So that's not a slam, and is not meant as nor directed as one. But cash flow can be managed, and it is very difficult, and it's always been difficult the month before tax collections. But I don't want to raise people's taxes, and I don't want to take away our flexibility to deal with what I see as a complete and utter mess in Richmond.
And really this, if by changing the word from 12 to 15%, Tom, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I have also, we've seen times where we just ran out of money and we had to get some temporary financing until taxes were paid. What I don't want to do is that, you know, if we need that $450,000 that we're talking about, the difference between 12 and 15, to meet some
crisis, one of the crises that's listed here.
Like our pump station, you know, it doesn't mean that we can't put 15 in it. We're seeing 12 to 15.
Right.
So the availability of that money will determine what we're putting there, and we can go up to 15%. I guess I had rather go out and get some temporary loans if we did have a cash flow problem than for us to get caught in a situation where we didn't have the money to make this fix here.
I don't think that we're all that tightly bound, because it already says that we can go below the 15% if it meets non-recurring expenditures. If there's a non-recurring expenditure case, and I would think that would apply to a pump station. Would that would that be the case?
Might not apply to the VRS.
We've used it for VRS specifically in years past.
Yeah. Well, we've used it for any
number of things. It is the people's
computer labs at the school, just to, you know, we've used it.
And just to stick an artificial floor and say, nope, we can't do anything else because we're at this artificial floor when we got money.
Obviously, we want to stay up as high as we can without punishing the citizens in tax rate. And that's what the goal is.
And I don't think we'll affect the citizens with that 12 to 15%, number one. And I don't know how many times we've gone out to short-term loan over my tenure on this council to make sure that whatever departments need in this community to function, we're going to provide it for them. And I think that's pretty much what we've told the school system as well.
Sure.
You know, you come here with a need that affects the education of our children, we're going to provide that. Now, if that means going into unappropriated fund balance or short-term loan or a combination of both, that's what we'll do. So I don't see that there's an issue with the 12 to 15%. I don't have a problem with it, and I think the short-term, the state side, Gene, that you just added to the list there, shortcomings at the state level certainly could be an emergency for us at some point in time. It may very well be a problem for us. I mean, I'm okay with it. I understand what Tom was saying, but I'm okay with the way it was presented.
Let me ask it this way too, and this gets at one of the roots of my concern, and that is how the bond rating agencies and others will perceive us, because you know it's always easy to borrow money when you don't need it, but when you need it, it's damn hard.
But I guess Tom,
our existing policy as written, I believe, is 15%. Is that not correct, Teresa? She's saying it is. If we lower it from 15% to 12%, will that be perceived negatively by the people who do the bond ratings?
Try to address it. I can't.
I can only tell you what I think.
Yes, please.
We're going to have to make a reasonable case to the bond rating agencies if that's where we're going as to why we made the change. And if I was the city's front man on that conversation, I would explain that that at the same time we made that change, we put in a series of more comprehensive changes. The point is, I think I can spin it in such a way that is both honest and tells a larger story. Really, if I could, one more point. For us, whatever this policy is ultimately chosen to be by the council, we have a separate issue that travels close to it, which is cash flow management. And Mike does a good job. We're going to have to be, as city staff outside his office, much more in tune with what he's doing and help with those cash management issues to a greater extent than we probably ever have, even if you set it at the 15%. We've got a role to play, and that has almost been exclusively the purview of the treasurer, who's done a masterful job, but I think he's going to need some help.
Mike, let me just ask you a question, if I could. What areas of your office are the cuts coming to from the state?
Basically, in the compensation we receive for salaries.
Okay. Okay, so it's salaries then?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
So Randy, changing this to 12 to 15 doesn't worry you?
Changing it from
15 to 12 to the range?
I think that I can explain to the rating agencies the context. So it in of itself is not of a major concern. The concern, regardless of what you said, is really cash flow management, and that's our ongoing challenge. If you set it at, you could set it at 6%, but as long as our cash reserves stayed at equivalent of 15, it doesn't have a practical effect on our day-to-day business. It's only when that number starts coming down, and we'll need to communicate with you all if that's happening and make some decisions. That should happen as a product of conscious choice, not by default.
But that's a question that comes just about every meeting. Is, what's the unappropriated fund balance? So it's not that we're not going to be on top of it. Okay, we need to discuss it any further. Someone, Gene, did you make the motion? Did you not?
Yeah.
And Carrie, did you second? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Sure. Okay. Judy, please.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Hunt.
Aye.
Councilman Holloway.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
And Mayor Helsel. Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Judy. Comments of the city manager. That would be you, Mr. Wheeler.
Just a couple of things very quickly, Mr. Mayor. I would note for the community's benefit, in case that they have not heard, that the planned H1N1 after-school health department clinic has been postponed. It had been originally scheduled for this week. We have not heard yet what the date of that is going to be, but when we know, we'll assist the health department in getting that out. The reason for the slowdown in the number of clinics is in part due to their success. They've experienced a shortage in vaccines. That certainly is not a success, but the fact that almost 1,450 people did receive an immunization at the last one in Poquoson, I think is a success, and I would congratulate the health department, the school system certainly, who did tremendous amounts of things to make that happen, as well as our own city police force. It was an all-out effort, and we'll have even more folks, including the CERT team, working the next one, because parking was an even bigger issue than we thought. I would note and ask for some guidance from the council. At your next meeting, if you'll see, we had originally planned to have both the Planning Commission and the subject of Massac Point on your work session agenda. In addition to that, it is probably very timely to either now or very shortly in the future have a work session relating to Parks and Recreation, to include the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And if those things did not complicate your schedule enough already, it is my hope and request to have a work session with the council at your next meeting, which would serve as my report to you back on the charge that you gave me in late September, to work with the White House co-developer and to talk about the marina project and the options that exist with the developer and the alternatives before this council to either move forward or not move forward in the face of the letter that we received mid-September from Mr. Brown. I would think that that work session, to do it justice, will probably take at least an hour. So I'm looking for some help on what else on those that we could move to another time.
Okay, I'm good with any time. I really am. I do think we need to have some discussion regarding the marina project before we move any further. Folks on council need to know that Binks and I and Randy did meet with those folks this morning for a solid 3 hours. It's certainly something we need to talk about. And you're coming with options for us, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. My intention is to share with you, my original intention as per your charge was to see if there was such a thing as some sort of alternate proposal, which I'd previously referred to as option B, which is something greater than the manufactured home development, which we have a site plan in for, and something potentially less than the original proposal. after several discussions, the developer has now come to the point that it's either that option C or a variant of the original option, and that variant is significant. It is the removal of the property conveyance, and it has impacts on the development agreement, et cetera. So what I expect to bring to you on that night is the option. In fact, there are two different ways the council could choose to pursue what I referred to as that A1 option, which according to the developer is his only other option that he's willing to consider, as well as to bring to your attention issues pertaining to the request that you got to terminate the contract and what may be entailed to do that. And so my hope is that we will leave that evening with direction from this council on how you would like to proceed, and whatever way you choose, we will get on that course.
Okay. All right, any suggestions about the other two work sessions?
I think we just got to establish how much time we're going to need to cover those, and then schedule it. We certainly need to have those work sessions. It's just what can we get into? If we start at 6 o'clock, what can we accomplish in?
I'm not sure an hour does.
Could we just prioritize them and then say,
Sure.
we want to do it this, we want to hear about this one, then this one, then this one?
Sure.
Fine. Yeah.
All right.
Assume that the marina is
one.
The one.
Okay.
Probably the planning commission in Essex Point. Do you think is the second one?
It's two different ones.
Terms
I'm
and
sorry.
boards be third. If that's, we won't get to it.
So
Not
the planning
now.
commission.
We'd
About
rid-
Essex Point. Then you said
The Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Right.
They're intertwined.
They're not. They have some overlap, but they're not one. Planning Commission is a follow-on of a conversation that the council had at the dais about desire to meet with the Planning Commission and just talk about the general state of planning, to include the work plan associated with the comprehensive plan that you just recently adopted. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board work session would be geared to, but certainly not limited to, a discussion of their recent piece that they provided to you as input to the comp plan on the future needs for Parks and Recreation in the city. Messick Point is a follow-on conversation. It's really a catch-all, but the genesis of the idea was following the fact that we got no persons who made application under the PPEA proposal for Messick Point, a discussion about where the council would like to go. And there are those three, and then we had the item pertaining to boards and commission that was postponed earlier today. So in addition to the marina work session, which I would think could easily take an hour, if the CTB took an hour, I would imagine the marina would at least. We have 4 other pending.
Yeah.
We can just keep sliding them on, but
My recommendation, at least my personal preference, is Marina, then Parks and Rec, because that's a pressing issue, I guess, with the proposals that we've been listening to lately about new parkland.
Fine.
Then Messick Point, and then meeting with the Planning Commission about whatever else they want to do, longer range stuff. That would be my.
Yeah. I don't have a problem.
And I don't know if you covered it. In boards and commissions, I'm sure you can squeeze in there, given if we finish early one night.
And I think we need to meet longer than an hour, at least for a couple of times. Rather than starting at 6, we've started at 5:30 before.
I'll start anytime you want to.
Or
based on that feedback, let me suggest we begin at 5:30 and we have only one topic, and that be the marina discussion.
Fine.
5:30 generally is hard to do, but one time.
And we'll keep on our back pocket the one on the boards and commissions since it's done, and if we find that we've got 15 minutes to end the conversation to begin that discussion, we'll have one ready to go. We don't have to invite anybody to come. It'll be ready, and we'll give you a revised schedule to accomplish the rest of it.
And well, as far as the priorities go, I think I'd be interested in Messick Point above Parks and Rec. I mean, they're both about the same, but Messick Point is one we could probably do by ourselves too, and there's some things we need to go since we didn't get that contract that we wanted. I'd really like to get that one I agree the Marine is the top one, but then Messick Point, we were really hopeful we would get somebody coming out for that, and I'd like to get that one put to bed because that is a real treasure that we need to be moving forward with.
Absolutely.
We'll say handle it.
Handle it. Okay.
If we're going to meet for
other
longer,
item.
I understand it's Vicky's month to cook, is that correct?
Yeah.
It would be much better than if it was mine.
The H1N1,
Yes.
we had 2,400, is that right, allocated to us?
I'm not sure how many we had allocated to us, but they did perform 1,447 that night. I think they ran out of time before they ran out of vaccine.
Yeah, it was a long, long line, and lots and lots of children.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever assistance we can give for some sort of, any kind of relief, whatever we could do is...
we provided a great deal, and we're going to provide a great deal more than that next time.
Even if it's and I don't want to divide their staff, but, if we need to do another facility at the same time, if that would help in any way, or if the facility was not what created the long line, it was number of staff, just whatever that we need to do.
10-4, that's what we'll do.
And you're right, the school system did just a knockout job.
They really did.
They could have made some other decisions that probably would have cost us a lot of injections, and I think they made the right call.
They did an excellent job. One final thing, Mr. Mayor, we have heard back from the school board regarding possible dates for a joint session between the council and the school board. The school board offered 2 suggested dates in November, that being the 11th or the 18th of November. Apologize I didn't get this to you ahead of time, but I just got it recently myself. The latter is, of course, a holiday, so my suggestion to you, or my request, is to see if the 18th, the evening of the 18th, would be something that could work for the members of the council. If not, rather than try to do it on a holiday, that we seek additional dates from the school board, perhaps in December.
I don't have a problem with the recommended date, this council does.
I thought that handle it covered that one too.
Yeah.
Never like to schedule special sessions of the council without at least getting you to nod, because that's taking you away from your.
You're nodding a lot.
From
We're
your
all
family.
thinking it's your job, yeah.
Thank you. And barring objection, I will answer the superintendent back that the 18th will be just fine.
And for our planning purposes, that's what time in the evening?
I would say it would be normal work session time, 6 p.m.
On the 18th?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, just one comment to you, Randy. Everybody got, I think, a copy of the pictures and the petition and the letters and dealing with Sandy Bay, and I asked Randy to set something up so that I could, at least go down and chat with those people, and what we'll do is set it up, let you know, and if anybody wants to join us, if that's okay, we'll have it at the time of day. Folks can join us if they want to. So whenever, and what works for council.
We will take care of that. We'll get on it in the morning.
All right. Tracy.
I was going to mention, both of you have complimented how well the city handled the shot thing. And I went out there, it was kind of the end of my street, and it was a spectacle. I mean, all of those people and all of those cars, and everybody handled it beautifully. So I was also going to comment on that. And just wish everybody safe trick-or-treating this coming week.
Okay, thanks, Gene.
I don't have anything. I guess the one thing I would do is thank the city staff for the seafood festival. That was a very challenging weekend. I'm glad that the financial report voted out the way that it did. But it is in no way the weather is in no way the responsibility of the staff. So. The staff did a great job in dealing with a very adverse situation. Still pulled off a very successful festival in some of the worst weather fathomable. But like everybody else, Bull Island will show up to eat their chowder on a cold day. So the predominant number of folks that we saw there this year were good friends and family. So it was actually enjoyable from my standpoint. And that's all I've got.
Okay, Tom, you got anything?
I wanted to also ditto the seafood festival. One thing that was really notable is all the city employees and everybody else working there, volunteers. I mean, there's a lot of volunteers there. And they were all cheerful and everything else, even though it was long, cold days. I mean, that cold got to the bone. One thing that I saw recently was Gloucester is, and this is for the city manager, Gloucester is getting school buses now that are propane powered, and they used some grant money to get that. And I've been behind a few of our school buses that are rather old, and I can tell you what they put off is not nice. So if you could look in to see if we could get some grant money, because we have a periodic bus replacement program.
We do, and I will be glad to.
Thank you. Also, one of the things that I got a couple of comments on at the Seafood Festival, and I have from time to time, is speeding on roads. I mean, it's not just Browns Neck. We've had people come and talk to us about Church and also Bunting. I was hearing about. I know Tracy, you live on Bunting, but is there something we could do to step up and maybe see if maybe some increased surveillance could knock things down a little bit?
Absolutely.
Try something.
We will. We can absolutely step up on any road. We have the ability to do that. What we don't have is the ability to put sustained presence on any one road for a great length of time. But we have several roads that are in our regular rotation, and we can be glad to add those.
And if we could hear back in like 90 days about what's happened or shorter, if that's possible, if there's anything that we can find that's effective, I know it's been a recurring problem. And then just the final thing is good luck, Gordon.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Kerry?
Well, I was going to talk about flu shots and seafood festival, and that's already been done. So that's all I got. City staff did great.
Wish Gordon luck.
Oh yes, I'll definitely do that.
I just got one thing, Mr. Mayor, and I sort of feel remiss about mentioning it because we're talking about trying to establish priorities for work sessions. But after we talked to our bond council people the last time, this isn't urgent, but at some point in time, I think this council needs to sit down with IDA and let's get it's been a while since we did that. And collectively, I think we need to know, I think I need to know now because maybe all of you guys remember, but this council had been vigilant about, especially when we were doing primary school, about doing some real estate acquisitions that we did, knowing full well that, we were putting properties in place for future growth for this city. But I'd just like to spend some time with those guys, sitting down and see what the plans is for the future with that group.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Done. Okay. Anything else? All right, we've got a closed session. Someone is put us in there, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move we go to closed session pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A3 of the Code of Virginia as amended to discuss acquisition of property for public purpose, i.e. park.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made second. We go to closed session. Ms. Wiggins, please.
Councilman Hunt.
Aye.
Councilwoman Crawford.
Aye.
Councilman Marie.
Aye.
Councilman Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Holloway.
Aye.
And Mayor Helsel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 6-0.
Okay, thanks, Judy.